Dawn Gardner had never expected her morning dog walks to change her life, but the moment she noticed the man watching from behind the iron gates, something shifted in the rhythm of her ordinary days. She had been passing the sprawling estate on Riverside Drive for 3 months now, ever since she adopted Murphy, a golden retriever mix with more energy than sense. The house itself was impossible to ignore, a modern masterpiece of glass and stone that sat on at least 5 acres, with manicured gardens that probably cost more to maintain than most people's mortgages. Dawn had always wondered who lived there, catching only glimpses of expensive cars coming and going, but never seeing the owner, until that Tuesday morning in late September. She was adjusting Murphy's leash when she felt eyes on her. Looking up, she saw him standing near the fountain in the front courtyard. Tall, dark-haired, wearing running clothes that somehow looked expensive even from a distance. He raised a hand in a tentative wave. Dawn waved back, startled, and Murphy took that moment to lunge after a squirrel, nearly pulling her off her feet. By the time she regained control, the man had disappeared. "Great," she muttered to Murphy. "The one time someone actually notices us, and you make me look like I can't handle a dog." But the next morning he was there again, this time closer to the gate, pretending to check his mailbox. Dawn slowed her pace slightly, wondering if she should say hello. Before she could decide, Murphy made the choice for her, barking enthusiastically and wagging his entire back half. "Good morning," the man called out, his voice warm and slightly uncertain. "Morning," Dawn replied, tugging Murphy back. "Sorry about the noise. He thinks everyone wants to be his friend." He might be right. The man stepped closer to the gate, and Dawn got her first clear look at him. He was probably in his early 30s, with dark hair that fell slightly into his eyes, a strong jaw shadowed with stubble, and an athletic build that suggested he actually used the home gym she imagined was somewhere in that mansion. "I'm Warren Nelson, Dawn Gardner. And this menace is Murphy." Warren's smile was genuine, reaching his eyes in a way that made something flutter in her chest. "I've been seeing you walk past every morning for a while now. Murphy's hard to miss. He's got a personality, that's for sure." Dawn felt suddenly self-conscious in her leggings and oversized sweatshirt, her hair pulled back in a messy ponytail. She probably looked like she had just rolled out of bed, which was essentially true. "You live nearby?" Warren asked, then immediately looked embarrassed. "Sorry, that sounded creepy. I just meant I haven't seen you around the neighborhood before, Murphy." "About 6 blocks that way," Dawn pointed east. "I moved here in June. Murphy came later, and he needs these long walks or he destroys my apartment. I know the feeling. I used to have a dog." Something sad flickered across Warren's face. "German shepherd named Atlas. He passed away last year." "I'm sorry," Dawn said softly, meaning it. She could already tell Warren was the type who had loved his dog deeply. They stood there for a moment, the morning sun filtering through the trees that lined the street. A car passed, breaking the spell, and Dawn realized she had been staring. "I should keep going," she said. "Murphy has another mile in him before I can get coffee." "Right, of course." Warren stepped back from the gate. "Maybe I'll see you tomorrow. Same time, same place," Dawn said with a smile. "Murphy's very consistent about his schedule." She thought about Warren all through the rest of her walk and into her workday. Dawn was a freelance graphic designer, working from home, which meant her social interactions were limited to video calls with clients and her walks with Murphy. She had moved to Seattle to escape a life in Portland that had grown stale. Her ex-boyfriend had been content with mediocrity, and Dawn had finally realized she wanted more. Not money, necessarily, but passion, ambition, someone who met her halfway. She had not been looking for someone new. Definitely not someone who lived in a house that probably had its own zip code. But Warren Nelson had kind eyes, and he had asked about her dog like he really cared. The next morning, Dawn put on nicer leggings and actually brushed her hair before pulling it back. She told herself it was not because of Warren, but Murphy gave her a knowing look that suggested dogs could smell lies. Warren was waiting by the gate again, this time with 2 travel mugs in his hands. "I took a chance," he said as she approached. "Coffee." "I'm guessing you're a coffee person based on what you said yesterday." Dawn felt warmth spread through her that had nothing to do with the beverage. "I am definitely a coffee person, thank you." She took the mug he offered through the gate's bars. "How did you know how I take it?" "I didn't. I made it the way I like it and hoped for the best. Light cream, no sugar." "That is exactly how I drink it." Dawn took a sip. It was perfect, rich and smooth. "Do you have some kind of industrial coffee maker in there?" Warren laughed. "Actually, yes. It was here when I bought the place." The previous owner was apparently very serious about coffee. "When did you move in?" "About 2 years ago. I work from home mostly, so I do not get out much." He paused, looking almost shy. "It gets lonely, honestly. This house is way too big for one person." Dawn wanted to ask why he lived alone in such a massive place, what he did for work, why someone who looked like him and seemed this nice was single. But those felt like third date questions, not second conversation through a gate questions. "Well, Murphy and I can provide daily entertainment," she said instead. "He's very good at doing ridiculous things." As if on cue, Murphy started chasing his own tail, got dizzy, and sat down hard on the sidewalk. Both of them burst out laughing. "See," Dawn said, "worth the price of admission." "The best show in town," Warren agreed. He hesitated, then said, "I know this might be forward, but would you want to walk together sometime? I mean, I could use the exercise and the company would be nice." Dawn's heart kicked up its pace. "Like right now, if you want." "I just need to grab shoes. Murphy and I will wait." Warren practically ran back to the house. Dawn looked down at her dog, who was watching her with what she swore was approval. "Do not get any ideas," she told him. "We're just walking." But when Warren returned, jogging down the long driveway in expensive running shoes and a jacket that fit him perfectly, Dawn knew they were not just walking. They were starting something. Warren fell into step beside her as they continued down Riverside Drive. Up close, he was even more attractive, with green eyes that crinkled at the corners when he smiled. He had a presence about him, confident but not arrogant, comfortable in his own skin in a way Dawn found incredibly appealing. "So what do you do?" Warren asked. "For work, I mean." "I'm a graphic designer. Freelance, mostly corporate branding and website design. It's not glamorous, but it pays the bills and I can do it in my pajamas." "That sounds amazing, actually. Creating something from nothing, helping businesses find their identity." Warren seemed genuinely interested. "Do you enjoy it?" "Most days. Some clients have no idea what they want and expect me to read their minds. But when a project comes together, when I see a logo I designed on a billboard or a website I built getting traffic, it feels good." Dawn glanced at him. "What about you? You said you work from home too." Warren was quiet for a moment, and Dawn wondered if she had overstepped. Then he said, "I run an investment firm, Nelson Capital Group. We manage portfolios for high net worth individuals and do some venture capital work." Dawn stumbled slightly. Nelson Capital Group, she had heard of it. They had been in the news last year for some massive deal in the tech sector. Warren Nelson, the Warren Nelson. "You're a billionaire," she said flatly. Warren winced. "I really hate that word, but yes, technically. Technically. The company's worth a lot on paper. Most of my personal wealth is tied up in assets." He looked at her cautiously. Is that going to be weird? Dawn thought about it. I don't know yet. How do you normally handle this with people? I usually don't tell them, or they already know who I am. Warren shoved his hands in his pockets. You didn't recognize me, which was honestly refreshing. I'm not really up on billionaire gossip, Dawn admitted, though now I feel like an idiot for not putting it together. The house, the way you said you work from home like it was something minor. It is kind of minor, I mean, work is work. Warren stopped walking, turning to face her. Look, I know this changes things. People get weird about money, but I'm just a guy who likes his coffee a specific way and misses having a dog. I saw you walking past every morning and I thought you seemed interesting and kind and real. That's all. Murphy chose that moment to sit on Warren's feet, leaning against his legs with total trust. Murphy likes you, Dawn said. He's usually a good judge of character. Is that a yes to more walks? Dawn smiled. That's a yes to more walks, but you're buying the coffee. Deal. They continued walking, and the conversation flowed easily. Warren told her about growing up in a middle-class family in Ohio, how he had built his company from nothing after college, working 18-hour days and living on ramen. Dawn shared her own story, the small town in Washington she had escaped, her parents who still did not quite understand what a graphic designer did, her dreams of maybe opening her own agency someday. By the time they looped back to Warren's house an hour later, Dawn felt like she had known him for years. Same time tomorrow, Warren asked. I'll be here. Murphy would riot if I changed the schedule now. Warren grinned. I'm counting on it. Dawn walked home in a daze. She had just spent an hour with a billionaire who made her laugh, who listened when she talked, who looked at her like she was the most fascinating person in the world. It felt surreal. Her best friend Tessa called that afternoon, and Dawn told her everything. Let me get this straight, Tessa said. You met a single billionaire who wants to walk dogs with you at dawn. It sounds ridiculous when you say it like that. It sounds like a romance novel. Dawn, this is insane. Good insane, but insane. Tessa paused. What's the catch? There's no catch. He's just a lonely guy in a big house. Billionaires are not just lonely guys. They have options. If he's interested in you, it's because you're special. Tessa's voice softened. Don't talk yourself out of this before it even starts. I'm not. I'm just being realistic. Realistic is boring. Take the chance. Dawn thought about Warren's smile, the way he had looked at her like she mattered. Maybe Tessa was right. The next morning, Warren was waiting with coffee again, and they walked for nearly 2 hours, talking about everything and nothing. He told her about the pressure of managing billions of dollars, the weight of making decisions that affected hundreds of people's livelihoods. She told him about the frustration of chasing invoices from clients who thought creative work should be free. I could hire you, Warren said suddenly. Nelson Capital is rebranding. We could use a fresh perspective. Dawn stopped walking. No, Warren, I like you. I don't know what this is yet, but I like it. If you hire me, that changes everything. I become someone you're paying, not someone you're walking with. Warren looked at her for a long moment, then nodded. You're right, I'm sorry, that was stupid. Not stupid, just complicated. Dawn started walking again. Let's keep this simple, just 2 people and a dog walking and talking. Simple, I can do simple. But it was not simple, not really. Every morning for the next 3 weeks, they walked together. Warren started showing up at her door instead of waiting by his gate, and they explored different routes through the neighborhood. They got breakfast sandwiches from a food cart and ate them sitting on a bench overlooking the water. Warren told her about his failed engagement 5 years ago, how his ex-fiancée had loved the idea of dating a billionaire but hated the reality of him. Dawn told him about her ex-boyfriend who had been threatened by her ambition, who had wanted her to stay small so he could feel big. We're quite the pair, Warren said one morning, throwing a ball for Murphy. Both running from our pasts. I'm not running anymore, Dawn said. I'm walking, with pretty good company. Warren turned to her, his expression serious. Dawn, I need to tell you something. Her heart sank. Here it came, the catch, the reason this was too good to be true. What? I'm falling for you. Warren said it simply, directly. I know it's only been a few weeks and maybe that's crazy, but I think about you all day. You're the first thing I want to see in the morning and the last thing I want to think about at night. I'm falling for you and I needed you to know. Dawn felt like all the air had left her lungs. Warren, you don't have to say anything back. I just wanted to be honest. He looked vulnerable in a way she had never seen before. But if you feel even a fraction of what I'm feeling, I'd really like to take you on an actual date. Dinner tonight. Just us, no Murphy. Murphy barked indignantly. Dawn laughed, feeling tears prick her eyes. I'm falling for you too. And yes, I would love to have dinner with you. Warren's smile could have powered the entire city. He stepped closer and Dawn thought he might kiss her right there on the street, but instead he took her hand, threading his fingers through hers. Tonight at 7, he asked. Perfect. Dawn spent the entire day freaking out. What did you wear to dinner with a billionaire? Where would they even go? She raided her closet 3 times before calling Tessa in a panic. Wear the blue dress, Tessa said. The one that makes your eyes look incredible. And for God's sake, breathe. He's already seen you at your most casual. This is just you, slightly more dressed up. The blue dress was perfect, simple, elegant, hitting just above the knee. Dawn paired it with heels that made her legs look amazing and minimal jewelry. When Warren knocked on her door at 7 exactly, his expression told her she had chosen right. You look stunning, he said, handing her a bouquet of sunflowers. I remembered you mentioned these were your favorite. You remembered. Dawn felt something warm bloom in her chest. She put the flowers in water while Warren greeted Murphy, who was beside himself with excitement. Sorry, buddy, Warren told the dog. This is a humans-only evening, but I'll see you tomorrow morning, I promise. They drove to a restaurant on the waterfront, a place Dawn had walked past 100 times but never thought she would actually eat at. The kind of place that did not list prices on the menu because if you had to ask, you could not afford it. But Warren made it feel normal, not pretentious. He held doors, pulled out her chair, poured her wine, all without making it seem like a performance. Tell me something I don't know about you, Warren said after they ordered. Something you've never told anyone. Dawn thought about it. I'm terrified I'm not good enough. Every project I take on, I'm convinced the client will realize I'm a fraud. I've been freelancing for 5 years and I still feel like I'm faking it. Imposter syndrome, Warren said. I get that. Every deal I make, there's a voice in my head saying I just got lucky, that eventually everyone will figure out I have no idea what I'm doing. But you built a billion-dollar company, and you create beautiful things from nothing. We're both good at what we do, Dawn. We just need to believe it. He reached across the table, taking her hand. Your turn. Ask me something. Why did your engagement really end? I know you said she didn't like the reality of you, but what does that mean? Warren sighed. She wanted the lifestyle, the parties, the travel, being seen with someone wealthy. But she didn't want me. She didn't care about my work, never asked about my day unless it involved something glamorous. When my dad got sick and I had to spend 6 months in Ohio helping my family, she gave me an ultimatum, her or them. That's awful. It was clarifying. I realized she had never loved me, just what I represented. Warren's eyes met hers. You're different. You liked me before you knew about the money. You keep telling me no when I try to give you things. You just want to walk and talk and be together. That's all I need, Dawn said honestly. They talked through dinner, courses coming and going almost unnoticed. Warren told her about his dreams of starting a foundation, using his wealth to fund education initiatives. Dawn shared her idea for a design agency that would work specifically with nonprofits at reduced rates. They discovered they both loved old movies, hated oysters, and had read the entire Harry Potter series at least 3 times. When Warren drove her home, he walked her to her door but did not push to come inside. "Can I kiss you?" he asked. And Dawn loved that he asked, that he gave her the choice. Yes. The kiss was soft and sweet and perfect, his hands gentle on her face, her arms wrapping around his neck. When they pulled apart, both of them were smiling. "Thank you for tonight," Dawn whispered. "First of many," Warren promised. "I'll see you in the morning, with coffee." With coffee. Dawn floated into her apartment, Murphy dancing around her feet, demanding details he would never understand. The next few months were a blur of morning walks, stolen kisses, and falling impossibly deeper in love. Warren integrated seamlessly into her life, meeting Tessa and winning her over instantly by remembering her birthday and asking about her job as a teacher. He took Dawn to charity galas where she wore borrowed dresses and felt like Cinderella. But he also came to her apartment in sweatpants to watch movies and eat takeout. He learned to cook her favorite pasta dish, getting the recipe from his private chef, but making it himself because Dawn said food tasted better when made with care. Dawn met Warren's family over Thanksgiving. His parents were warm and welcoming, his sister funny and irreverent, immediately pulling Dawn aside to whisper, "I have never seen my brother this happy. Thank you for that." Warren's mom cornered Dawn while they were doing dishes. "He told us he's going to marry you," she said without preamble. Dawn nearly dropped the plate she was washing. "What? Not now, don't worry. But he told his father and me that you're the one, that he's never been more certain of anything." She dried the plate carefully. "I just wanted you to know that we see it too. The way he looks at you, the way you look at him. That's real." Dawn felt tears threaten. "I love him so much it scares me sometimes." That's how you know it's right, when the thought of losing them is worse than the fear of the risk. Christmas came and Warren gave Dawn a key to his house. Not as a suggestion that she move in, but as a symbol that she always had a place with him. Dawn gave him a leather-bound journal filled with her sketches, designs she had never shown anyone, and on the last page, a drawing of the two of them with Murphy on that first morning by his gate. Warren stared at it for so long she thought he might cry. "This is the most beautiful thing anyone has ever given me," he said, pulling her close. "You see me, Dawn, really see me. Not the money or the company, just me." "You're not hard to see," she whispered against his chest. "You're the best man I know." They rang in the new year together, just the two of them and Murphy, watching fireworks from Warren's rooftop terrace. As midnight struck, Warren kissed her like she was oxygen and he had been drowning. "I love you," he said against her lips. "I am so completely in love with you." "I love you too," Dawn said, and it was the easiest truth she had ever spoken. In February, Warren's company closed a major deal, one that had been in the works for over a year. Dawn watched from the sidelines as he navigated meetings and negotiations, saw firsthand the pressure he was under. The night the deal closed, he came to her apartment exhausted and wired, collapsing on her couch with Murphy immediately jumping up to comfort him. "How do you do this?" Dawn asked, running her fingers through his hair. "How do you handle all that stress?" "I think about you," Warren said simply. "In every meeting, every conference call, I know that at the end of it all, I get to come home to you. That makes everything else manageable. You're not home now. You're at my tiny apartment." Warren sat up, taking both her hands. "Dawn, wherever you are is home. Your apartment, my house, a park bench. If you're there, I'm home." It was in that moment, sitting on her second-hand couch with her rescue dog sprawled across both their laps, that Dawn knew she wanted to spend the rest of her life with this man. Spring arrived in Seattle with unusual sunshine, and Warren surprised Dawn with a weekend trip to San Juan Island. They stayed in a small bed and breakfast, not the luxury resort she had expected. They rented bikes and explored, ate fish and chips sitting on the dock, watched the sunset over the water. "Why here?" Dawn asked as they walked along the beach. "You could take me anywhere in the world." "Because this is real," Warren said. "No photographers, no people trying to get my attention for deals. Just us, being normal people falling in love." "I think we're past falling," Dawn said. "I think we've landed." Warren stopped walking, turning to face her. The sunset painted everything gold, and Dawn thought she had never seen him look more handsome, more real, more hers. "Marry me," he said. Dawn's heart stopped. "What? I know I don't have a ring. I didn't plan this. But standing here with you, I can't imagine waiting another second to ask." Warren took her hands, his eyes bright with emotion. "Dawn Gardner, you walked past my house every morning with your ridiculous dog, and you changed my entire life. You made me remember what it's like to be just a person, not a bank account. You see me, challenge me, make me laugh, make me think. I want to wake up next to you every morning for the rest of my life. I want to walk Murphy with you when we're 80 and can barely move. I want everything, all of it with you. Will you marry me?" Dawn was crying, laughing, nodding all at once. "Yes. Yes, of course, yes." Warren picked her up and spun her around, both of them laughing like children. When he set her down, he kissed her thoroughly, deeply, a kiss that tasted like promises and forever. "I'm getting you the most amazing ring," he said against her lips. "Whatever you want." "I just want you," Dawn said. "Everything else is extra." They called their families from the beach, everyone screaming congratulations. Tessa cried so hard she could barely speak. Warren's mom said she had already started planning the wedding in her head, which made them both laugh. That night, lying in bed at the bed and breakfast, Warren pulled Dawn close. "What do you want?" he asked. "Big wedding, small wedding, courthouse. It's your day, whatever you dream." Dawn thought about it. "Something small. Just the people we love, somewhere beautiful. I don't need 500 people I've never met." "The garden at the house," Warren said immediately. "I've been thinking about it since Christmas. We could set up an arch by the fountain, chairs on the lawn, keep it intimate." "That sounds perfect." They set the date for June, giving them 4 months to plan. Warren insisted on hiring a wedding planner, but Dawn stayed involved in every decision. She designed their invitations herself, simple and elegant. They chose a menu together, tasted a dozen cakes before finding the one that made them both close their eyes in happiness. Warren did get her a ring, an oval-cut diamond that caught the light like fire, set in a simple platinum band. It was stunning and tasteful and so perfectly her that Dawn cried when he slipped it on her finger at dinner the week after the proposal. "How did you know?" she asked, watching it sparkle. "I've been looking at your Pinterest board for months," Warren admitted. "You left it open on your laptop once and I might have saved the link." "You stalker," Dawn said fondly. "Only for you." The months before the wedding flew by in a flurry of dress fittings, menu tastings, and late-night conversations about their future. They decided Dawn would keep her apartment as an office, but would move most of her things into Warren's house. He had a whole wing renovated into a studio for her, with perfect natural light and enough space for her to spread out on multiple projects. "You don't have to keep freelancing," Warren said carefully one evening. "I mean, you can if you want to, but you don't have to worry about money anymore." Dawn turned to him. "I need to work, Warren, not for the money, but because I love what I do. It's part of who I am." "I know. I just wanted you to know you have options." He pulled her onto his lap. Though selfishly, I like that you'll be working from home, more time with you. You're going to get sick of me. Never. Impossible. Dawn's parents flew in 2 weeks before the wedding. Her mother took one look at Warren's house and went pale, but Warren won her over by asking about her garden and genuinely listening to her talk about roses for 45 minutes. Her father was harder to crack, pulling Warren aside for a conversation that made Dawn nervous. But they emerged smiling and her father hugged her tight. "He's a good man," he whispered. "Treats you right. That's all I ever wanted for you." Tessa was Dawn's maid of honor, and she threw a bachelorette party that was more wine and pizza than strip clubs, exactly what Dawn wanted. They painted pottery and laughed until they cried, and Tessa gave a speech about how she had never seen Dawn this happy, this alive. "He's your person," Tessa said, slightly drunk and very emotional. "Your ridiculous, impossible billionaire person, but mostly just your person." Warren's bachelor party was equally low-key. His best man, his college roommate Marcus, organized a golf day followed by steaks and scotch. Warren came home smelling like cigar smoke and grinning like a fool. "I missed you," he said, pulling Dawn into his arms. "It's been 8 hours." 8 hours too long. The night before the wedding, Dawn stayed at Tessa's house to preserve the tradition of not seeing the groom. She barely slept, excited and nervous and so ready to marry Warren that every hour felt like an eternity. The morning of the wedding dawned clear and perfect, as if the universe had decided to cooperate. Dawn's hair was styled in loose waves, her makeup natural and glowing. The dress she had chosen was elegant and simple, fitted lace with a flowing skirt, exactly right. When Tessa zipped her up, Dawn stared at herself in the mirror and felt like a bride. Not just any bride, but Warren's bride. "He's going to lose his mind when he sees you," Tessa said, misty-eyed. "You're absolutely beautiful." The garden at Warren's house had been transformed into something magical. White chairs lined the lawn, an arch covered in flowers framed the fountain, and soft music played from hidden speakers. 75 people, just their closest family and friends, stood as Dawn appeared at the top of the aisle, but she only saw Warren. He stood at the altar in a perfectly tailored suit, his eyes locked on her with such love that Dawn's breath caught. As she walked toward him on her father's arm, she saw him wipe away tears, not bothering to hide his emotion. When her father placed her hand in Warren's, she felt the rightness of it settle deep in her bones. "Hi," Warren whispered, his voice rough. "Hi," Dawn whispered back, smiling through her own tears. The ceremony was short and sweet. They had written their own vows and Warren went first. "Dawn, the first time I saw you walking past my house with Murphy, I thought you were the most real person I had ever seen. You were just living your life, no pretense, no agenda. And I wanted to know you so badly it hurt. Every morning after that, I waited for you like you were the sun and I was a flower. You brought light to my life, warmth, color. You made me remember what it was like to be myself, not just a job or a bank account. You challenged me to be better, to dream bigger, to love deeper. You are my best friend, my greatest adventure, my home. I promise to walk beside you every morning, to drink coffee made just right, to love Murphy almost as much as I love you. I promise to see you always and to make sure you see yourself the way I do. Brilliant, talented, kind, beautiful, extraordinary. I promise to love you with everything I have, for all the days of my life." Dawn was fully crying by the time he finished, and she had to take a moment to compose herself before reading her own vows. "Warren, I was just walking my dog. That's all I was doing. I wasn't looking for love, wasn't expecting my life to change. But you saw me, really saw me. And you asked if you could walk with me, not because of what I could give you, but because you wanted to be near me. That's when I started falling. Every conversation, every laugh, every moment of vulnerability, I fell harder. You made me feel safe enough to be fully myself, brave enough to dream bigger, loved enough to believe I deserve it. You're my best friend, my partner, my unexpected everything. I promise to keep you grounded when the world gets loud. I promise to celebrate your wins and sit with you in your losses. I promise to create a life with you that's full of art and love and really good coffee. I promise to walk Murphy with you every morning, even when we're too old to keep up with him. I promise to love you, Warren Nelson, with my whole heart for the rest of my life. There was not a dry eye in the garden. When the officiant pronounced them husband and wife, Warren kissed Dawn like they were the only two people in the world. Everyone cheered. Murphy barked from where he sat with Warren's sister, and Dawn felt happiness so complete it was almost overwhelming. The reception was perfect. They danced under string lights as the sun set, cut a cake that tasted like heaven, and gave toasts that made everyone laugh and cry in equal measure. Warren's father welcomed Dawn to the family with such warmth that she understood where Warren got his kindness. Her mother told Warren he had better take care of her daughter, and he promised he would spend every day trying to deserve her. Their first dance was to an old jazz song, and Warren held her close, his lips near her ear. "How are you doing, Mrs. Nelson?" he asked. Dawn pulled back to look at him. "I'm keeping Gardner professionally, but I love hearing you call me that." "Noted. How are you doing, my wife who is keeping her name for work purposes?" Dawn laughed, the joy bubbling up and out. "I'm perfect. This is perfect. You're perfect. Not even close, but I'll try to be for you." As the night wound down, they said goodbye to their guests and escaped to the house. They were leaving for their honeymoon to Italy in the morning, 2 weeks of exploring cities and eating amazing food and being together without schedules or obligations. But first, they had tonight. Warren carried Dawn over the threshold of the bedroom, even though they had slept there 100 times before. Everything felt different now, charged with the weight of the promises they had made. "I can't believe you're my wife," Warren said, setting her down gently. "I keep thinking I'm going to wake up and this will all be a dream." "It's real," Dawn said, reaching for him. "We're real. This is our life now." They made love slowly, tenderly, learning each other as husband and wife. Afterward, lying tangled together in the dark, Warren traced patterns on Dawn's skin. "Tell me about the future," he said. "What do you see?" Dawn thought about it. "I see morning walks and coffee. I see you building your foundation and me growing my business. I see us traveling, coming home, building a life that's ours. Maybe kids someday when we're ready. I see growing old together, still holding hands, still choosing each other every single day. That sounds like a really good life. It sounds like the best life." They fell asleep wrapped around each other, Murphy eventually sneaking up to curl at the foot of the bed despite his training. Italy was everything they hoped it would be. They explored Rome hand in hand, ate pasta in tiny restaurants in Florence, took a gondola ride in Venice that was touristy and perfect. They stayed in small hotels and woke up tangled together, making love in the morning light before venturing out to explore. "We should do this every year," Warren said one evening as they sat at a cafe in the Tuscan countryside. "Pick a new place, spend a few weeks just being us." "What about work?" Dawn asked. "Marcus can handle things, and you can work from anywhere." "We'll bring Murphy next time, find places that let dogs stay." Warren reached across the table for her hand. "I don't want to look back when I'm 80 and realize I spent all my time working and missed out on living." "Then we won't," Dawn said simply. "We'll make the time. We'll prioritize us." When they returned to Seattle, they settled into married life with surprising ease. Dawn did grow her business, taking on bigger clients and eventually hiring 2 other designers to help with the workload. Warren started his foundation, focusing on education access for underprivileged kids, and Dawn helped design all the branding pro bono. They hosted dinners, went to events, but their favorite nights were still the quiet ones at home with Murphy and takeout. Warren learned to actually cook beyond that one pasta dish, taking classes because he liked the idea of feeding his wife food he made with his own hands. Dawn created a gallery wall of their photos, documenting their life together from that first walk to their wedding to lazy Sunday mornings. 2 years into their marriage, they started talking seriously about kids. Dawn was 31, Warren 34, and they both felt ready to expand their family. "I want them to have what we have," Dawn said one night. "Parents who love each other, who show up, who make them feel secure." "They will," Warren promised. "We'll make sure of it." Getting pregnant took longer than they expected. Months turned into a year and Dawn started to worry. Warren held her through the disappointment each month, never making her feel broken or inadequate. "We could adopt," he said gently. "Or foster. There are so many kids who need love." "I want that too," Dawn said, "but let's give it a little more time." 3 months later, Dawn saw the positive test and screamed loud enough that Warren came running from his office, convinced something was wrong. "I'm pregnant," she said, shoving the test at him. "Warren, I'm pregnant." He picked her up and spun her, both of them crying and laughing. Murphy barked frantically, confused but feeding off their excitement. The pregnancy was textbook perfect. Dawn glowed, Warren hovered, and they prepared a nursery that was equal parts practical and whimsical. They decided not to find out the sex, wanting to be surprised. "Boy or girl, they're going to have your eyes," Warren said, his hand on her growing belly. "I hope they have your eyes." "I hope they have your heart," Dawn replied. Their daughter arrived on a sunny morning in May, screaming her displeasure at the world with impressive volume. Dawn held her and felt love so fierce it was almost terrifying. "She's perfect," Warren whispered, touching the baby's tiny hand with wonder. "She's absolutely perfect." They named her Lily Rose Nelson, and she had Dawn's dark hair and Warren's green eyes. Warren cried holding her, this tiny person who was half him and half the woman he loved more than life. Being parents was harder than either of them expected, and more rewarding than they could have imagined. Lily was colicky for the first 2 months, and they took shifts walking her around the house at 3 in the morning, delirious with exhaustion but bonded in their shared mission to comfort their daughter. Murphy was amazing with Lily, lying beside her during tummy time like a protective guardian. Dawn captured it in photos, these moments of their daughter with their dog, and knew she would treasure them forever. Warren cut back his hours at work, insisting on being present. He did morning feedings so Dawn could sleep in, changed diapers without complaint, and sang off key lullabies that somehow worked. "You're really good at this," Dawn said one night, watching him rock Lily to sleep. "I have a good partner," Warren replied. "We make a great team." As Lily grew, so did their life together. They took her on her first trip to the beach, watched her take her first steps, heard her say her first word, which was, inexplicably, doggy, while pointing at Murphy. On their 5th wedding anniversary, they renewed their vows in the same garden where they had married, with 3-year-old Lily as their flower girl. She took her job very seriously, throwing petals with great concentration. "5 years ago, I promised to love you forever," Warren said, holding Dawn's hands. "I didn't know then how true that would be. You've given me everything, Dawn. A home, a family, a life I didn't know I could have. I love you more now than I did then, and I'll love you more tomorrow than I do today." "You asked if you could walk with me," Dawn said, tears streaming. "And I've been walking beside you every day since, through joy and stress, through late nights with a crying baby and early mornings with coffee." through building careers and building a family. And I would walk through anything, Warren, as long as you're next to me. I love you. Forever." They kissed while Lily clapped and Murphy barked and their families cheered. When Lily was 4, Dawn got pregnant again. This time with a boy they named James Warren Nelson, and their family felt complete. Lily was an amazing big sister, gentle and protective with her baby brother. Warren's company continued to thrive, but he remained hands-on with the foundation, which had grown to operate in 15 states. Dawn's agency had a staff of 8 and worked with some of the biggest nonprofits in the country. But their proudest accomplishments were sleeping down the hall in matching pajamas. On their 10th anniversary, Warren surprised Dawn with a renewal of their very first walk. They left the kids with his parents and took Murphy, who was older and slower but still enthusiastic, down Riverside Drive. "Remember when I used to watch you from the gate?" Warren asked. "I was too nervous to even wave for weeks." "Remember when you brought me coffee?" Dawn said. "I thought that was the smoothest thing ever." "It worked, didn't it?" They walked past Warren's gate, past where they had first talked, and Dawn felt overwhelmed by how much had changed and how much had stayed the same. "I would do it all again," she said. "Every moment, every choice that led me here." "Me too," Warren said, pulling her close. "Every single day I choose you, and I always will." They kissed there on the sidewalk, Murphy patient beside them, the morning sun warm on their faces. Two people who had found each other by accident and built a life by choice. Two people who proved that sometimes the best love stories started with a simple question: "Would you walk with me?" And Dawn had said yes. She would say yes every day for the rest of her life. 20 years after that first walk, Dawn and Warren sat on their porch, watching their grandchildren play with Lily's golden retriever. Lily had followed in her father's footsteps, brilliant and driven but with her mother's creativity. James was a teacher, working with underprivileged kids through the foundation his father had built. "We did good," Warren said, his hand finding Dawn's like it always did. "We did really good," Dawn agreed. Murphy had passed years ago and they had cried for days, mourning the dog who had brought them together. But there had been other dogs since, each one loved and treasured. Warren turned to look at his wife, and Dawn felt that same flutter she had felt the first time he smiled at her through the gate. His hair was silver now, lines around his eyes from decades of laughter, but he was still the man who had asked if he could walk with her. "Want to go for a walk?" Warren asked. Dawn stood, pulling him up with her. "Always. I'll always walk with you." And hand in hand they walked down Riverside Drive as the sun set, two people who had found forever in the simple act of choosing each other. Every morning, every day, every moment of their beautiful, ordinary, extraordinary life. The end of their walk brought them back to the beginning, back to the gate where it all started. And Dawn thought about that woman she had been, lonely and looking for a fresh start, walking a dog with too much energy. She could never have imagined this life, this love, this man who had seen her and chosen her and loved her unconditionally for decades. "Thank you," she said suddenly. Warren looked at her. "For what?" "For asking if you could walk with me, for taking that chance." Warren pulled her close, kissing her forehead. "Best decision I ever made. You were worth every risk, every fear, every moment of uncertainty. You were worth everything." As they walked back to their house, their family, their life, Dawn knew that she would walk beside Warren Nelson for as long as she had breath in her body. And when they couldn't walk anymore, they would sit together, holding hands, still choosing each other. Because that was what love was. Not just the butterflies and passion and romance, though they had plenty of that even after all these years. Love was the choice to show up, to stay, to walk together through every season of life. And Dawn would choose Warren every single time. They reached their front door just as the last light faded from the sky and Warren turned to her one more time. "I love you, Dawn Nelson." "I love you too," she said. "Forever." And she meant it with every piece of her heart.